The time now, very nearly 3 o'clock. The next programme on BBC One, Songs of Praise, follows at 3:15 after a trade test transmission.
us next Sunday. Lots to look forward to. Join us again then.
Now on to a second chance to see the first programme in a new series which will examine the wide range of religious experience and belief throughout the world. As Ronald Eyre begins The Long Search.
Next Wednesday evening, we are beginning a repeat series of The Fight Against Slavery, a 6-part dramatised documentary telling the story of one of the greatest political crusades. This series is currently winning a large following in the United States, where it's been seen for the first time. And last year, its writer Evan Jones was awarded the Martin Luther King Memorial Prize. The Fight Against Slavery begins on BBC Two next Wednesday at 9:35. Now on to the art and design edition of Arena.
In Arena this week, we look at the magical world of artist-alchemist Kit Williams. But first, George Melly is your guide to an unusual exhibition of lasers and holography.
So this is a laser, immortalized by science fiction as a lethal death ray years before its invention.
Speech. That vote will decide the future of Mr. Callaghan's government. Tonight is here in Westminster, and at 10:25 we'll bring the first news of the result. Also, in an exclusive interview for tonight, Sir Harold Wilson talks to Robin Day about why he was ignorant of Rhodesian sanctions busting. That's tonight at 10:25.
And now look at the weather. Over England and Wales, patchy fog will become quite dense in some areas, then clear slowly in the morning. Tomorrow, northern Scotland will be colder, though a little less windy than today. Elsewhere, temperatures will again be above normal. Maximum values will range from 9 degrees centigrade, 48 degrees Fahrenheit in the far north, to 15 degrees centigrade, 59 degrees Fahrenheit here in the south. And that's the weather.
Programmes tomorrow night on BBC One. At 7:10 in Star Trek, some well-earned shore leave for the crew of the Enterprise on a beautiful uninhabited planet.
Looks harmless. Probably is harmless. But before I bring my people down here, I want proof it's harmless.
At 8 o'clock in Going Straight, Fletch finds a job.
It must be your first legitimate job in... How long is it?
Ever. Then at 8:30, there's more comedy with rings on their fingers.
Have you thought about family?
Yes, I'd love one. We want 3.
Yes, I'd like 3.
At 9:25, Target, starring Patrick Moore and Philip Maddock.
The customs have been on to the Treasury. And the Treasury have been on to, guess who, me. So I think the full report is in order, don't you?
Some programmes tomorrow night on BBC One.
Back to Thursday's programmes on BBC One and tonight's documentary commemorating the 60th anniversary of the end of the Great War. Armistice and After is presented by the distinguished journalist and historian John Grigg.
This is the first major incident since then. It comes 11 days after the Chinese leadership told Britain's defence chief, Sir Neil Cameron, how weak they were along the Soviet border, while he replied that Britain and China had a common enemy in Moscow. The real test of the seriousness of the clash will be the effect it has on the peace talks between the Russians and the Chinese about their border dispute, which have dragged on fruitlessly ever since 1969, and which only resumed a fortnight ago. And we still haven't heard what the Russians have to say about the whole incident.
Scotland Yard detectives investigating allegations of sanctions breaking have been to the international trading company Lonrho. They've asked for documents about the company's activities in Rhodesia. A Lonrho spokesman said tonight, "There's nothing we have to hide or be ashamed of." After the two government defeats on income tax this week, ministers are now said to be hopeful that the rest of the main budget proposals will be approved by the Commons. One of our Westminster staff says it became clear after today's cabinet meeting that there's no government intention of seeking a vote of confidence, and the remote possibility of a summer election has been ruled out. The Prime Minister in Manchester tonight criticised the Conservative voting on the budget proposals. He said their sole aim was to help the better off.
Now the Conservative Party, aided by its miscellaneous group of allies, who, let me say, voted with them for entirely different reasons, voted with them in order to blackmail the government to do other things that were quite unrelated to the merits of the case. That is the degree of cynicism to which they sunk. They struck their blow at this family budget. I hope they feel proud of themselves. Although it was clear last night that they weren't clear as to what it was exactly they thought they'd done. For one thing at least, Mr. Chairman, we can be grateful. Their actions on Monday and again last night have made the differences between the parties clear. We chose our priorities in the budget. The family, they chose their priorities last night, and you saw what they were. And their votes show more clearly than a score of honeyed speeches where their interests and their sectional interests truly lie.
The Scottish Conservatives, on the opening day of their conference in Perth, have launched a vigorous attack against the Scottish National Party. They criticised
Spice. Know it. Feel it. Sense it. The power of Old Spice. The mark of a man.
Miss Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Remember me? You were my teacher at school.
Oh, good heavens, yes, it's Harrison Minor, isn't it?
Drink, miss.
Gin and Schweppes, please.
2 gin and Schweppes, George.
Darling. Tim! Have you met Sarah?
Yeah. I was just saying, when I was a lad, we were at school together.
Tonic by you-know-who gives you a certain you-know-what.
10 out of 10, Harrison.
What is the secret of Seiko elegance? Is it the slimness of its styling? Or is it the beauty of a real diamond set alone upon a classic face? A Seiko quartz watch has an elegance all of its own, an elegance born of Seiko's world-leading technology. This is the special quality of Seiko quartz. Someday, all watches will be made this way.
The summer temperature here at the Domecq vineyards can reach 100 degrees, but this blazing heat brings forth fruitfulness. Domecq, double century, created from sun and grape for 200 years and more by the family Domecq. Nature's very wonderful. Double century by Domecq, the finest sherry since 1730.
If you get spots, you must keep your skin really clean. So wash with new Biactol. Biactol washes your skin clinically clean. This model shows how oil and skin debris clog a skin pore where bacteria can breed and cause spots. New Biactol washes away the plug of oil and skin debris and kills bacteria. So whenever you wash, wash with new Biactol. Biactol keeps skin clinically clean. Too clean for spots to last.
You know, the best things in life don't have to cost the earth. Take Senator, made by Benson and Hedges. A superbly mild, smooth cigar with its own holder. And it sells for a very reasonable price indeed. In fact, things being what they are, Senator is one of the few real pleasures a gentleman has left. Senator, a unique slim cigar at a surprisingly low price.
Temperatures during tomorrow will be slightly lower than they were today, but still quite respectable temperatures, getting up to between 7 and 10 centigrade, which is in the upper 40s Fahrenheit, around about 50 Fahrenheit in the southeastern corner here. You'll find it breezier in southern parts of the country than it has been for some time. And then the outlook for the following couple of days, well, a fairly dry spell, and then some more rain getting into northwestern parts. Your weather on too.
BBC Two. Now, On the Rocks looks at the processes involved in the closure of an earlier Atlantic Ocean.
Meters below Pistichi's hilltop in the Basento Valley, the government has built a processing plant that taps the deposits from a natural gas field. Using local gas supplies and some imported by pipeline, the plant's main product is artificial fibre for the textile industry. The plant employs 1,500 people and was set up, like hundreds of other schemes in southern Italy, to bring employment and industry to this, one of the least developed corners of Europe. It was the first factory of any size to be built in the neighbourhood of Pistici, and there were, on average, 10 applicants for every one job available.
Next week's Horizon looks at the work of a psychologist and follows his search for clues to human behaviour, where nothing happens twice in Monday evening's Horizon at 9:50 and again next Saturday afternoon at 5:45. Tomorrow on To the World About Us joins a UNESCO scheme to save the ancient shrines of the Kathmandu Valley in Nepal with British architect John Sanday.
One of the limitations that I set myself was to avoid having to import any materials, because the importance of this particular job was to ensure that the Nepalese themselves could carry the work on after UNESCO and UNDP had drawn out. So therefore, it was no point in bringing in sophisticated gadgets and techniques, but to employ what we could find in the market.
The world about us and the fight to save the treasures of Nepal tomorrow at 7:15 here on 2. On BBC One in a moment, the phone will be ringing for private investigator Jim Rockford, another case from the Rockford files. Here on 2 now, Barry Norman conducts the first of his own investigations into the life and career of one of the Hollywood greats.
Clark Gable, born February 1901, died...
There's a BBC record of sketches from the Monty Python series available from record shops. In just under 50 minutes, Robert Robinson looks at a variety of books, one of which may be just the book for Christmas. First on BBC Two, Jonathan Miller with another revealing look at the body in question.
Man, and if there is need for it, destroy him.
Part 4, A Dead Man to Carry My Cross, is next Monday at the same time, 9 o'clock. The theme music from Who Pays the Ferryman is available from record shops on a BBC single. On Wednesday on 2, The Ambassadors by Henry James. An American, Lambert Strether, is sent to Europe on a delicate mission and meets Maria Gostri.
You have told me what Mr. Chadd stands to gain by the success of your mission, but you haven't told me what you do.
Oh, I own nothing.
You mean you have been, in a sense, paid in advance?
I mean that payment, as you call it, is no part of the matter. I mean that for me it never is. In me you see the perfectly equipped failure.
And thank goodness for it. That is why I so instantly distinguished you.
I think that you two are no longer part of the battle.
If you knew the dreams of my youth. But thank you. The superiority you note in me announces my futility. So we are brothers in arms, you and I.
We are.
And you stand to gain nothing by success?
Not a thing.
What then do you stand to lose if your mission fails?
Oh, don't speak of it.
The Ambassadors by Henry James, starring Lee Remick and Paul Schofield, on Wednesday at 9:45 on 2. This is BBC Two. The Long Search. Ronald Eyre turns to southern Africa for this week's programme, in which he observes the rapid and vigorous expansion of African Christianity and the impact it has made on traditional religions. That programme will be shown again on Sunday on BBC Two at 5:50. Next Monday at 9:50, Ronald Eyre continues the long search in Taiwan, where he attempts to define the differences between Confucians, Taoists and Buddhists. And there's a BBC book by Ninian Smart, Background to the Long Search, an illustrated study of the world's great living religions, available from bookshops, price £7.25. A new series of the Man Alive report begins tomorrow with a film about a radical American technique devised by prisoners themselves for shocking young offenders into realizing the horrors of prison life.
The stage of the prison concert hall. The men who thought up and run this scheme are all serving life sentences.
Here we are. Your junkies, your pushers, your pimps, your rapists, your B&E artists, your armed robbers, your murderers. We're not so goddamn glamorous today, are we? These cesspools are practically 85% black. But don't think for 1 minute because you're white and from a middle-class family that you're going to continue to get over. Because the courts are tired of you. They're frustrated. They don't know how to deal with you people.
Jailhouse Shock, tomorrow's Man Alive report at 10:15 on 2. In 10 minutes, Open Door is presented by the United Lawyers Association. First, the Lake News on 2 with Richard Baker.
In two cyclones which have devastated large parts of southern India, 6,000 people are believed dead, and the death toll is still rising. The first cyclone struck 10 days ago, but because of broken communications, the details are only now becoming clear. It swept across the state of Tamil Nadu, killing 400 people, but was then followed this weekend by another storm which hit neighbouring Andhra Pradesh. This time, the cyclone was followed by huge tidal waves and thousands died. From Delhi, Mark Tully reports.
After an aerial survey by the Chief Minister, senior officials and army officers, it was reported that many villages had been completely swept away, when winds of 100 to 150 kilometers per hour whipped the Bay of Bengal into 20-foot-high tidal waves. This has led to reports that the death toll could eventually be as high as 10,000. The winds have struck a densely populated, highly fertile rice, sugar and tobacco growing area, so damage to property and crops is also bound to be high, with hundreds of thousands being left homeless. Communications are still very badly disrupted, making the task of rescue workers difficult.
The Indian government has granted immediate emergency aid of £3.5 million to each of the states affected. Tonight, however, another cyclone is expected to strike the southwest coast, with tidal waves causing more widespread flooding. In Cairo, about 300,000 Egyptians gave President Sadat a hero's welcome when he flew home after his historic visit to Israel. Both President Sadat and the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Begin, have agreed that the dialogue they've started must continue, paving the way for the signing of a peace treaty by all the countries involved. But, as they admitted, enormous differences still remained. And our diplomatic correspondent says there are fears that President Sadat's visit may have increased the difficulties of reconvening the Geneva Peace Conference by deepening divisions in the Arab world. From Cairo, our Middle East correspondent reports on President Sadat's return and some of the implications of his 2 days in Jerusalem.
President Sadat came home to a tremendous welcome from his people. And even accepting that the Egyptian government had carefully orchestrated much of it, it was obvious many thousands of people were showing their true feelings. For the moment then, the president is a hero in his own country. But one can't help wondering just how long the euphoria will last, since inevitably the realities of what was or was not achieved during his visit now have to be faced. Questions will have to be answered. Questions such as, given the resulting opposition to Egypt in the Arab world, how easy will it be to reunite all the Arabs for a Geneva peace conference? In other words, since little substantive progress appears to have been made on the important issues still dividing the Israelis and the Arabs, has this trip brought the conference any closer to being reconvened? Certainly the declaration that Israel and Egypt do not intend to go to war against each other again is a big step forward. That's because without the Egyptian army support, the Syrians and the Jordanians aren't strong enough. So there would seem to be no immediate danger of another war, even if progress towards peace is slow. In addition, a major advance, and one which should not be underestimated, has been the breaking down of the psychological barriers dividing the two sides. So whatever happens next, one thing is abundantly clear. The quest for peace in the Middle East will never be the same again.
On Saturday, President Sadat will make a speech to his parliament about his visit to Israel. And on Friday week, Mr. Begin will come to London for a 3-day visit. He'd planned to be here this week, but the trip had to be postponed because of President Sadat's visit. At the beginning of the second week of the firemen's strike, the Home Secretary told the Commons the pay offer to the firemen couldn't be increased, nor was the union willing to accept it at present, he said. Mr. Rees answered criticisms that servicemen fighting fires weren't allowed to use the best equipment available. He said this would be unsafe in the hands of inexperienced men. Opposition MPs also complained about the activities of flying pickets at the same time as 300 strikers were travelling to demonstrate outside the fire station at High Wycombe. Some of the firemen there are still working. Nicholas Jones reports.
The strikers travelled from all over London for their demonstration. 29 of the 50 men at High Wycombe are still working and claim they're providing full emergency cover. They're all members of a breakaway union, the British Fire Services Federation, and say that as dedicated firemen, they won't join the strike. After some of the pickets had banged on the doors, policemen moved in. Twice a deputation tried to get inside.
We've been trying to get them to meet a deputation from us, 3 of us, to the good officers of the police. We've made 2 attempts and we failed to get into the station.
If you'd got through to these High Wycombe firemen, what would you have told them?
Well, I would have told them that at this moment in time they could come out with honour, that there'd be no recrimination.
This is BBC One. And now Barry Norman and Film 78.
Tuesday, you give the bedrooms a thorough clean. Wednesday's the easy day. The only extra job is cleaning the windows. Wednesday evening, you have off. But if you'd rather stay in, I can always find you some mending. Now, this is the boys' room. Thursday, you do all the wooden floors and surrounds with beeswax.
Bernard Brown is a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company. Episode 2 of Who Plays the Ferryman next Monday evening exposes more undercurrents of suspicion and danger for Alan Haldane, and also for a visiting Englishman who, reliving wartime memories of his escape from Crete, finds his very life threatened. Jack Watson and Lalla Ward are the guest stars in Who Plays the Ferryman at the same time next week, 9 o'clock. A look now at tomorrow night's programmes here on 2. At 7:30, Newsday reports from Armenia, where the oldest established Christian church in the world still holds its own in an officially atheist state. At 8:10, Floodlit Rugby League from Bellevue with live second-half coverage of the quarter-final match between Wakefield and Hull Kingston Rovers. At 9, the goodies.
You have not got a dodo in there, because if you have, I want to see it. What the hell is it? Dodo!
At 9:30, a magician creates confusion in the water margin.
There they are! Kill them all!
At 10:15, Summer of '77 follows 2 young British gymnasts who won a prize to one of Russia's famous sports academies. And rounding off the evening, Bob Harris puts the Tubes and the Gary Boyle Band to the Old Grey Whistle test. Programmes for tomorrow night here on 2. Details in Radio Times. You're watching BBC 2. Now Ronald Eyre continues his quest, the long search for man's efforts to find meaning through religious experience. Tonight, he goes to Indonesia for The Way of the Ancestors.
At 10 o'clock, our Sunday morning worship will be coming from Christchurch at Armley in Leeds. But first, to look at the science of the seas in the series The Sea in Their Blood.
There are 4,000 million people in the world, and every 6 days, 1 million more, all crammed onto less than 1/4 of the Earth. Close international cooperation is needed if we are to protect and best utilize our world ocean. The spread of man's achievement out onto the waters has meant we need to know more than ever before. For man's future on the land, he must learn the secrets of the sea.
The series will continue next Sunday morning with a look at the history of the seafarers. Well, now the time is 10 o'clock, and morning worship today comes from Christ Church, Upper Armley in Leeds.
Good morning and welcome to Christ Church, Upper Armley in the city of Leeds. We try to be a family church where young and old alike can experience the joy of meaningful worship.
Next week's programme looks back over a mere 50 years of radar, from the experiment which began it all when an RAF bomber and a borrowed BBC shortwave transmitter helped 3 scientists send the first signals. From this simple beginning, in a muddy field in Northamptonshire, grew the system which was to win the Battle of Britain, defeat the U-boats in the Atlantic, give civil airlines their eyes to operate with, and provide NATO with its first line of defence in the Cold War. The Long Watch in QED next Wednesday evening at 9:30.
Starting next Wednesday on BBC One, the award-winning story of David, the badly disfigured Indian boy saved by a Scottish plastic surgeon. Desmond Wilcox presents the Boy David trilogy, culminating in a new film next Friday, which brings the story up to date.
The boy David, a Peruvian Indian, is 10 now. He's been through 60 operations already. The surgeon's wife, Marjorie, is the only mother he knows, and the surgeon is the man he calls Dad.
So as we could get as much soft tissue from there.
Now the Jacksons want to make him their own child. We flew with Marjorie into a remote part of the Peruvian jungle, and she wasn't without her doubts as she landed.
One wonders if it's, if you're doing it for your own satisfaction, and if in fact you'll be satisfied, and if what you're doing is going to harm these people.
And that wasn't the end of it. There were more expeditions, and there was more surgery for David, always with his future at stake.
Desmond Wilcox presents the Boy David trilogy on consecutive nights starting next Wednesday at 11:05 on BBC One.
And now on BBC One, Harry Carpenter introduces Sports Night.
Good evening. 2 hours of sport for you tonight, including a football bonanza. We shall see all 4 British teams who are bidding to reach the semi-finals in Europe. Our main action comes from Anfield, the European Cup.
There's a fresh approach to business today. That's modern, bright. Offices large and small, in the heart of Manchester, yet close to the station. From £3.75 per square foot, they're going fast. So move, or be left behind.
111 Piccadilly. It's a fresh approach to business.
Have a great family day out at Fishwick's Photo Fair. There'll be Nikon with their new F501, Olympus, Canon, Pentax and Minolta, plus over 100 other big names, practical darkroom demonstrations, and 2 studios with 5 lovely models. All of this and more at Fishwick's Photo Fair, Haydock Park, 29th to 31st of May.
How many hidden horrors lie in wait in an English company washroom? Toilet rolls that disappear, causing mental stress and fear. So there's lots on a slimy floor, so you slip and you flip and you bob your rump in an English company washroom.
Some company washrooms are a mess, and Kimberly-Clark think that's a scandal. Every toilet tissue, towel and soap system we provide brings efficiency, hygiene and a touch of class to every washroom. We don't compromise. Why should you?
Ground floor perfumery, stationery and leather goods, wigs and haberdashery, kitchenware and food.
And there's comedy over on BBC Two in a minute with the Bob Monkhouse Show, featuring the Cockney humour of Mike Reid and the satirical skills of Monteith and Rand. Here on BBC One in 25 minutes, and following the end of the coal strike, we've a specially extended edition of Panorama, which will be facing the future of coal with an assessment of the mining industry, including an interview with the Energy Minister, Peter Walker. The programme also goes live to a divided mining community in Derbyshire. That's Coal's Unsettled Future, a special panorama at 9:25. And that means our late film, starring Clint Eastwood, will start at 10:25, when he plays an Arizona sheriff who heads east to collect a wanted killer from custody in New York. Also starring Susan Clark and Lee J. Cobb. That's Coogan's Bluff at 10:25. But now on BBC One, the 9 o'clock news.
For those of us who insist on the best, life can be unkind. Is it to be the Picasso or the Panasonic, the Silver or the Sony, the Tattinger or the Technics, the Mason or the Ferguson? Then again, it could be the Bang & Olufsen or nothing. Plums, sound and vision centres, when nothing but the best will do.
Alert, inquisitive, active. He's a PAL dog. PAL, firm and meaty, with succulent jelly and nourishing marrowbone, in 4 real meat varieties, with rabbit, with beef, with turkey, and with liver. PAL gives him a balanced daily diet with vitamins, minerals, delicious jelly, and nourishing marrowbone. PAL helps keep him fit and active. He's a dog to be proud of. PAL with marrowbone for active life.
Cottrill's of Bramhall, more than words can say.
At NatWest, we spent 1984 putting money to work. We provided 500 places under the Youth Training Scheme and supported Project Full Employ, which gives training to unemployed young people. All told, NatWest allocated over £6 million for the benefit of the community. We put money to work for business too, with loans of £10 billion, half of which went to small businesses. We also put money to work for our personal customers, for example, by helping them buy their own homes with a further £650 million in mortgages. And our programme of branch opening on Saturday morning starts next month. NatWest is putting money to work. Ring 01 200 0200 for our annual report, or look in tomorrow's papers and see. NatWest, the Action Bank.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pleasure I offer is hard to resist. The finest assortment in the world, I insist. Milk and plain chocolates, all stars in their right, with centres so splendid you'll thrill with delight. Too many to remember, not one to forget. Some you might recognize, some you won't yet. They're all made by Terry's. Ah, I see you're impressed. Now all that remains is their name. Have you guessed? Terry's Harlequin, an assortment of magical tastes.
There are 500 genuine price reductions at Co-op Leo's now. Genuine savings like these. And we're so confident of the quality, we've given every product a money-back, free replacement guarantee. 500 genuine price reductions at Co-op Leo's now.
Will you try this for me, Mr. Conway?
Sure.
Say, that's wonderful.
What is it?
Tico, a new sherry to mix with ice and tonic.
The sherry that you mix. It's a terrible idea.
Tico and tonic. You may not like the idea, but you'll love the drink.
In 5 minutes, Peter Sissons presents the Channel 4 News. That's followed on 4 by Raising the Titanic, a documentary telling how a theatre company reenacted the historic sinking in London's Limehouse Dock.
Top entertainment for Easter Monday here on Granada. At 7, What's My Line? Eamon Andrews in the chair to host the Celebrity Challenge, while in Coronation Street at 7:30, Brian's fuming.
She's walked out on me and she's took my son with her. Who says she can just walk out? Who says she can just take my son away because he's my son just as much as hers?
Then go and do something about getting him back then.
At 8, Benny Hill is back with Every Mod Con.
It's a pity you ain't got remote control.
Yeah.
But the laughter has to stop in the long Good Friday.
Colin's been carved up and I've got a bomb in me casino. We got gang war in our heads, right? We already have.
11:20 brings international entertainers.
I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face.
Gloria Gaynor and Alan Price are the international entertainers at 11:20. Music, comedy, action and drama for Easter Monday on Granada.
Seeds produce poor specimens unless the growing medium is right. A peat-based compost is best in all...
Fison's Levington are peat-based.
Being light, compost can easily dry out.
But Levington has a unique water retention agent.
Plants may exhaust the nutrients in many composts.
Not in Levington. Not now it's got a richer blend of nutrients and trace elements.
For healthier plants, take 2-cross hoof and horn, 2-cross superphosphate.
For healthier plants, take a leaf out of our book. Fison's Levington Composts.
If there's one thing I can bank on this bank holiday, it's Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, open all over the bank holiday.
Johnson's 99p sale is on now. Trousers or skirts cleaned and hand-finished for only 99p. At Johnson's now.
Till we meet under the great oak. Love, Robin. Till we meet under the great oak. Till we meet.
It's for you!
It's for me?
Greetings. If thee be missing a loved one, use the phone. You'll find it so much easier. The phone. It's for you to get hold of a loved one.
Come on down to Fisher's Great Spring Spectacular and see our unbeatable prices. Choice, value and guaranteed fitting within 2 days at any Fisher's carpet store now.
Hey, Tosh, here's a question. How much of a high-tech Toshiba 21-inch FST television would you expect to rent for under £10? Remember, this is one of the greatest advances in TV technology since colour. Well, unbelievably, at Martin Doors, you can rent this complete 21-inch Toshiba FST colour TV for only £9.95 a month. Or you can rent the very same Toshiba FST TV together with the latest Toshiba VHS video recorder for just £20.95 a month. That's an awful lot of Toshiba, Tosh, for less than £21. Martin Doors TV and Video World. We challenge you to rent or buy for less.
Ladies and gentlemen, the pleasure I offer is hard to resist. The finest assortment in the world, I insist. Milk and plain chocolates, all stars in their right, with centres so splendid you'll thrill with delight. Too many to remember, not one to forget. Some you might recognize, some you won't yet. They're all made by Terry's. Ah, I see you're impressed. Now all that remains is their name. Have you guessed? Terry's Harlequin, an assortment of magical tastes.
Motor oils may look the same, but when it comes to quality, are they the same? Because unless the oil has additives to prevent corrosion, inhibit and disperse sludge, and control the flow of the oil, it will only lubricate, not fully protect. Does your oil have all these protective ingredients? Esso Superlube has the lot. Esso Superlube, the striped protector. There's no better oil.
There's only one place to go. Break prints in your hands at Super Snaps.
May I hope you're enjoying your Easter Bank Holiday Monday evening here with us on Granada. And here's Eamon Andrews now with another edition of What's My Line?
From London, What's My Line? With Eamon Andrews.
Hello there and welcome. Almost fell over my chair there. I hope you're having a very happy Easter. We must be the only place in the whole land that still have our Easter eggs intact. Not for long. Oh. Yes, broken at last. Ernie Wise, do better.
Yes, did it.
They're supposed to be hollow, but they're not. There's lots of sweets inside mine. Jilly Cooper.
Yeah.
Patrick Moore.
Why have I only got a small one?
Well, you didn't even answer that.
Angela Rippon. George Gale.
I'm not a determination.
Oh, he'd smash an egg all right. Now, if you're all very good in the audience, we'll share the bits with you later. Would our first challenger sign in, please? You know the rules by now. Owen Foxwell, peace of mind. Thank you, Owen. What was that? I almost missed that. It was so good. Now, we're going to show you at home what Owen Snoxall does for a living. I'll tell you when it's off the screen. All right. And he is salaried. And before we start with Patrick Moore, where do you come from, Owen?
Barton-le-Clay in Bedfordshire.
Barton-le-Clay in Bedfordshire, Patrick Moore. Stop eating that chocolate now.
Sorry, Owen. Good evening. Would I be right? Let's just see. I know how devious Eamon is. Is your occupation in any way seasonal?
Not really. Well, I think I agree with you that not really is the true answer, but in the purpose of which we're defining now, it would appear to have a seasonal aspect. We couldn't really, even much as I'd love to, give him a total no on that.
Right, so it's got something to do with
the
Christmas.
Aspect of
True, yeah.
He missed that. He'd have given me a no, wouldn't he?
I did miss that.
Right, so would I be right in saying that you've got nothing to do with Easter eggs?
You would be right.
I would be right.
Yes,
and I would be, the thing that's on the card is actually something to do with Easter.
Yes.
Yes. Is the, do you provide a service?
No.
No, that's one gone. Angela Rippon.
Oh, and if it's something to do with Easter, is it something to do with Easter in the food line?
No.
No, that's two gone. George Gale, the egg cracker.
Well, is it something to do with Easter in the sense of it being spring and this time of the year?
I think even if Easter fell in the middle of winter, it wouldn't be relevant. No, the answer is no. That's... it's nothing got to do with spring in that sense. I think I'm right in saying. I hope I'm not doing you a wrong, George.
You probably are.
Am I?
No.
No. That's another one. No, I won't charge that. Right. Ernie Wise.
We've established it's something to do with Easter, right? That's right.
That's
yes.
right.
Do you make something?
Yes.
Well, the two famous things are Easter eggs, which we've cast out, so it must be something to do with in your Easter bonnet.
Yes, Easter bonnet designer. And of course, although there's a seasonal aspect to that, he makes hats all the year round. And if you'd, perhaps maybe you did know that Barton the Clay is just outside Luton, it would have given you the hint of bonnets and boaters and so on. Isn't that right, John?
Yes.
And this is, of course, is a family affair, isn't it?
That's correct, yes, yes.
And you supplied the boaters for that famous movie?
That's right, Chariots of Fire,
Chariots of Fire.
Headwear for that, yeah.
Now, when you have people around the factories, I know you do have, and you sometimes give them the ladies' miniature bonnets and the gents' miniature boaters. What sort of reaction do you get when you give them this gift?
Well, they can't believe it, really, but usually the thing that they do is... Shall I just grab one of these?
Sure, yeah. This is what you actually give them, a miniature boat.
Yeah, we do these miniatures as well as the full size, and the first thing they do is they put it on their head. And then, of course, they sing, "Give me the moonlight." Give me the girl.
All right, well done.
And kick the legs up in there.
Thank you.
There's only two cups.
Patrick.
Can we possibly ask you what the mime was?
Yeah.
It's too late now, he's gone. I've no idea. No, I do know. Actually, he was putting in the straw. There are two moles in an oven, and the straw is put in. One is a female shape, and the other's male, I mean the hat shape. And then he pulled it down, and then they're roasted and toasted and whatever happens, and out comes the basic of the hat. Okay?
Right. Thank you.
Will our next challenger sign in, please? Stan Mortimer. Peace of mind, Stan. And I'll be prepared to explain that as well if you want to. No. Thank you, Stan. Stan, you come from where?
I come from Wigan in Greater Manchester.
Wigan in Greater Manchester, did you say?
Yes.
All right, coming up on your screens now, what Stan Mortimer does for a living. I'll tell you when it's off. All right, it's off your screens now. Stan Mortimer is salaried, and thank goodness we're not starting with Patrick Moore this time, but Angela Rippon.
Why?
A general studies programme, Underwater, is next on BBC One, and it begins in just over 10 minutes' time at 2:35.
Horse-drawn trailers in the countryside and people enjoying a carefree life. That's the romantic image of the Romanys.
Hello. Watch the birdie. This is Insight. This is how people used to have their pictures taken. Then the camera was invented. Watch the birdie. The first cameras were very clumsy. They used photographic plates, which were sensitive to light. Nowadays, we use rolls of film. Some modern cameras even develop their own films. Here are some old cameras. As cameras got better, they could take photographs much quicker. Film cameras like this one can take 25 photographs every second. So, you can see moving pictures. And electronic cameras like this one can record pictures instantly. Pictures from these electronic cameras pass through cables and end up on your sets at home. It's a lot easier than the old way. Give us a smile. Now, a big grin. You're making me giggle. You've got to laugh. What a hoot.
Lucy's dad is taking a photo this morning.
Isn't it heavy, William? No, Joe, it's light. Oh. It's awfully heavy.
Who did that?
I did.
Oh, you've spoilt it, Ben.
It's meant as a warning.
I like it. It looks silly.
But do not enter.
You've got the wrong T-shirt. You've got to have the one with your name on it for the photograph. And hurry up.
Okay.
Oh, no. Look, Dancer's wearing his name too.
Can you come up here, please? Come on. Lucy, stand next to your brother. Oh, cheer up. Right. Why do bees hum?
What?
Why do bees hum?
Don't know.
Because they don't know the words. Hey, where does the king keep his army?
Don't know.
Up his sleeving.
that ends today's transmission for schools and colleges, but we'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:30 when our first programme will be Making a Living.
The answer's yes at TSB.
Wouldn't it be good if your bank could help you get what you want all over the country?
The answer's yes at TSB.
Wouldn't it be handy to have a bank that wasn't shut just because it happened to be closed?
The answer's yes at TSB.
A bank that didn't charge you if you stayed in credit, where there really were friendly, helpful people.
The answer's yes at TSB.
A bank that offers discounts on music, clothes and lots more. Well, it's for real at TSB.
The banks that like to say yes.
Moving house, redecorating. If it's a question of blinds, Apollo have the answer. Slim and elegant in great colours. And there's 1/3 off. Right, 1/3 off at Apollo now.
Now here's a model I designed for a 4-stage orbital rocket ship.
It'll never get off the ground. No propellers.
Do we go to lunch? Or do we go to the moon?
The hero types, the built-in hero types, the built-in hero types.
Big baby salutes. Off the ground.
Equinox, tomorrow, 8 p.m.
Now on Channel 4, Opinions.
Walter Wriston is one of the 20th century's most visionary bankers. For 17 years, he was chairman of Citicorp, the world's largest bank. He is now chairman of President Reagan's Economic Advisory Board. In tonight's Opinions, he argues that high-tech capitalism will make the entire world richer and more democratic.
It is said that when Adam took Eve's hand and led her out of the Garden of Eden, he turned to her and said, "We live in an age of transition."
Next Wednesday at 9, a case against capitalism and Professor Jerry Cohen's opinions that the capitalist system is inevitably self-destructive. Just about to start over on ITV, Viewpoint 86 and a celebration of wildlife with Sir Peter Scott. Here on 4 After the Break, Vanessa Redgrave stars in the second episode of 3 Sovereigns for Sarah. The spiral of hysteria tightens on Salem Village and more innocent victims of mass superstition are thrown into jail as witches.
It's taken the designer's art, the engineer's vision, to create the new British luxury saloon, to combine aerodynamics with beauty and stature, to balance smoothness of ride with full-blooded power, and to design a car that soothes and comforts, leaving the pressures of the day far behind. Prestige, power, performance. The new Rover 800 series. Engineering in a finer form.
From individually wrapped Simplicity towels to tampons. From size 1 and 2 towels to pant liners. Simplicity gives you the confidence to take everything in your stride. simplicity.
Take everything in your stride.
The Home Finder girls give free independent advice on a huge choice of brand new homes. Get the facts. Ring Warrington 38888.
Why let painful, sensitive teeth cloud your day when Sensodyne can give you protection? And now there's new Sensodyne F, the toothpaste for sensitive teeth with fluoride and a really fresh, clean taste. With regular daily use, Sensodyne acts progressively to relieve the pain. Use Sensodyne and ask your dentist about sensitivity. Sensodyne toothpastes to relieve the pain of sensitive teeth.